Most survivors spend their lives running away from their nightmares, but one man kept walking straight back into his. Decades after the brutal Lake Bodom murders, the sole survivor returned to the blood-stained shoreline, driven by a ritualistic compulsion that defies logic. Was this a search for closure, or a killer revisiting his masterpiece? Imagine waking up in a shredded tent, the only person left alive after a night of unimaginable violence. The morning was cold. He smelled blood and damp lake water. His friends were gone. 3 of them were dead. He alone was alive. That fact by itself was a source of unending horror. But what came in the years that followed made the story even stranger. He went back. He came back to that same exact shoreline many times. He walked the path to where the blood had long ago dried. He sat where his friends had drawn their last breaths. These were his small acts, his private rituals. This is the story of that return. It is a story of ritual, doubt, and a case that continues to ask impossible questions. The night of June 5, 1960 was brutal. The drive to return to a scene of trauma is a powerful psychological force. We call this the psychological provocateur, the internal voice that pushes a person toward the source of their pain or guilt. For the survivor, this was not a simple act of remembrance. It was a compulsion. It was a ritual that had to be performed. This behavior is fascinating from a profiling perspective. Was he trying to solve the puzzle in his own mind? Was he trying to reconnect with the last moments he shared with his friends? Or was this a ritual of dominance, a way for an offender to relive his work and feel that same power? The act of returning is never neutral. It is always loaded with intent. This ritualistic behavior raises fundamental questions about motive. A person driven by grief might return to feel a sense of connection. They might talk to the deceased or leave flowers. But a person driven by guilt returns for a different reason. They might be seeking self-punishment, forcing themselves to confront their actions. Or, more sinisterly, drawn back by the thrill of the crime itself. Forensics is the language of physical truth. It does not have feelings or biases. It simply reports what it finds. In the Lake Bodom case, evidence was scattered and often contradictory. Investigators found blood. They found footprints. They found a torn tent. But the evidence did not tell a single coherent story. The crime scene itself was compromised from the very beginning. It was not secured by modern standards. Evidence was trampled. Important items were moved by well-meaning but untrained individuals. This chaos created a forensic puzzle never fully assembled. One of the most glaring issues was the survivor's own statements. His account of the night changed over time. This is not unusual after extreme trauma. However, the inconsistencies were significant enough to raise flags. His shoes were found some distance from the tent, with the victim's blood on them. A pillowcase bore his DNA, but not that of an unknown assailant. The narrative of the survivor is a study in suspense and performance. Central to this were the reenactments he performed. Years after the attack, he would take people, journalists, investigators, curious onlookers, back to the shoreline. He would walk them through his version of that night. He gestured, retraced steps in the confusing aftermath. These reenactments were a strange form of theater, an attempt to make a chaotic memory concrete, to give it shape. They also felt like a performance designed to control the story. A place can hold a memory. The shoreline of Lake Bodom is not just a location on a map. It is a silent witness. The ground itself absorbed the violence of that night. The trees stood watch. The water reflected the chaos. For decades, this patch of land has been more than nature. A destination for the morbidly curious, a pilgrimage for sleuths, a reminder for the community. His repeated visits sanctified the ground in a strange way. He was in a dialogue with the place itself. Returning reactivates scent, sound, and cold, an immersive pull back into horror. Why would someone voluntarily put themselves through that? From a behavioral analysis perspective, ritual is language. It communicates a subject's internal state. When we see ritualistic behavior at or after a crime, we must ask what it is telling us. A profiler looks at repetition and symbolism. Repeated returns are post-offense behavior demanding scrutiny. Quiet, repetitive acts can be a bid for control over chaotic memory. From law enforcement's view, the same acts can signal guilt. The offender checks the secret. The ritual becomes a security check. Trauma loop and guilt cycle are not mutually exclusive. The survivor's returns sit in that gray space. Unresolved details linger the longest. They are the pebbles in the shoe of the investigation. There were wounds on his hands, defensive or offensive. There was also his ring, unaccounted for immediately after. The exact time of the attack was never established. Reports said the grass wasn't crushed as you'd expect. He first recalled only a silhouette. Years later, details emerged. Memory or invention. Hypnosis can help or create false memories that feel real. These small facts build a cloud of doubt that keeps the case unsettled. The weight of time, a community and its cold case. The Lake Bodom murders became part of Finnish identity, a dark, cautionary tale. Returning ritualistically, he embodied unresolved trauma. Families lived in uncertainty, some comforted by his presence, others provoked by it. Attention kept the wound open. New theories surfaced. Old suspects revisited. Time twisted his ritual into a public spectacle of guilt. Human behavior is often a form of theater. We perform roles and follow scripts. By inviting others to watch, he controlled the narrative, the director and the star. Performance creates emotion. It is not the same as forensic evidence. Did he return for closure or to hide a crime? The loop must be broken. Today's tools can read what 1960 could not. Minute samples, new patterns. A fresh, systematic review could reveal what we missed. Do one small, responsible thing. Your task is not to solve the crime. Ground yourself in evidence. Read reliable sources. If you find something credible, contact the Finnish National Bureau of Investigation. Honor the 3 who died and the 1 who survived. Be part of the search for truth, not the noise.